Hello, fellow freelancers. Sorry, everything seems crooked in this video. I'm not sure why. Oh, I think because of the angle. Anyway, hi, I am back. Actually, I think I would have already posted another video, but anyway, I wanted to today make a video about something else, which is sorry. I think I mentioned it before. I'm kind of recording all these videos in a row, and then I'm going to sort of space them out because I think that's better. Since I have time now, a block of time to record these videos, I think it'll work out better. Anyway, so oh yeah, so what I'm going to do now, I want to talk about something. This has come across. This is a question I got about mistakes in the source text, and it's come across a couple times before. I know to me personally, and I think in the comments before, because it's something that you do come across as a translator. Obviously, you don't want to make mistakes, but what if there's already a mistake in the source text? And there are various different types of mistakes that you can find. Like maybe you can find an obvious typo or something like that, or it can be something where you're really not sure what they meant, if they meant this or that, or something where you're definitely sure that it's completely wrong. And anyway, you find all different types of mistakes in the source text. It just happens. And so how do you deal with it as a translator? Should you just translate with the mistake? Should you, correct it, or should you ask permission, or how do you go about this? And so I kind of wanted to cover that a bit because it obviously depends on the different types of mistakes you see. And so I want to go through kind of what I do whenever I see these mistakes. So first of all, when I see a typo that's quite obviously a typo and nothing more, I kind of ignore it, and because obviously I'm not going to translate with a typo, and obviously if they spelt someone, I'm translating, say, correspondence, and someone wrote definitely with an A, or one of those common mistakes you see, then I'm going to translate it correctly, and then that's it. I need to be 100% sure that it's a typo, obviously, but more often than not, I can tell, yeah, that was just a quick typo that someone was typing quickly, or else they'll be two words smashed together, something like that. Any situation where they couldn't use spell check or something like that, you see a bunch of these. So yeah, those are quite easy. I kind of just translate them correctly, and then that's it. Other times I see something where I'm not really sure. And, here, if it's something that's could go either way, or I'm not really sure what they meant, or they skipped a word, it looks like they skipped a word, but I'm not sure, or, how it's going, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask. That's the best thing to do. And I say, look, this shows up. Does it mean this or does it mean that? If I'm working with an agency or an end client, it doesn't matter. I ask. Now, so what I'll do is, especially if I have an end client, is I won't ask right away. I usually wait because I don't want to be sending a bunch of emails back to end clients. You have to treat end clients a bit differently. And so what I'll do then is I'll start scouring the whole document in case there are other issues or mistakes or typos or questions that I might have. And I'll just send one email with all the questions that I have, like at the end of that day or a couple days, depending on when the deadline is, because I want to give myself enough time to perform the translation. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do. There are other situations where it's so. Anyway, yeah, there are a whole bunch of situations. Another option that you can do is that if there's a mistake and you're pretty sure you know what they meant, but there's a little bit of doubt, you can ask there as well, or you can kind of just leave a comment. So what I'll do is I'll perform the translation. I'm pretty sure it's this way, but there's still a 10% chance that it was supposed to be some other way. I'll just leave a comment. And usually you're translating in Word, you can put a comment. I'll be like, look, I assume it's supposed to be like this, but in case it's supposed to be that the other way, and then I'll say, this is the way I would translate it, and I put it in there. So they can always just copy and paste it there if that's the case. And I do this just because I don't want to disturb them too much with too many questions that I'm pretty sure I know the answer to. So I kind of just leave it as a comment so they have the option, and most likely they'll just delete the comment, and that's perfect. And then there are other types of mistakes, the egregious ones. So recently I had a translation where I had here, let's see, blah, 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 blah. Oh yeah, at a certain point, it was the Articles of Association of a company. And it's going through talking about the board of directors, what they can do, the chairman, what the chairman can do, stuff like that. And at a certain point, it says the chairman has, in case of a tie of the shareholders in terms of a vote, the chairman has a deciding vote. And then it goes blah, 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 blah. It talks about other stuff. Then it talks about the General Assembly. And then it says, when there's a General Assembly, all the different rules and bylaws and stuff like that. And then it says the chairman does not have the deciding vote. Now, this can be an issue if you deal with articles of association, because if you say the chairman always has the deciding vote, but then you're like, oh, but in the General Assembly, he doesn't have a deciding vote, then does he have the deciding vote or not? Because the only times you're going to have a vote is during an assembly, and it's going to be during the General Assembly. So usually if you say the chairman has a deciding vote, it means during the General Assembly. And so this can be an issue. And very often, sometimes I'll come across these where it's a real brain twister in a way, because I'm not even 100% sure. Wait, is this a mistake? Is it not a mistake? Should it be this way? Should it not be that way? And stuff like that. And so for these, I usually, I point it out at least to the client. And, what I'll say, because I can translate both of these, there's no problem with the wording itself. I can translate that perfectly. I can translate the chairman has a deciding vote. I can translate the chairman does not have a deciding vote. That's no problem. And they show up in different parts of the document. But I did notice it, and it makes the document a bit weird and ambiguous. Usually what I do in these cases is I do the translation. That's no problem with that. But then when I email it to the client, with the final translation, then at this point, I kind of just tell them, I'll be like, by the way, the original document has the chairman has a deciding vote and then doesn't have a deciding vote. I thought I would just point that out because it seems, it could be a bit ambiguous. The reason I leave it until the end is if they do make a correction, they're going to have to correct the original for that as well, which means they'll probably have to do their own internal stuff and redo their whole article of association in the original. And then they'll come back to me later if they want to do other changes to the translation or not. So it doesn't really have anything to do with the translation per se, but it is something that I noticed. And so that's why I wanted to point it out. And so yeah, that's usually what I do. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do for the different types of mistakes that you can find. I try to, my main rule is I try to think what is best for the client. What would they appreciate the most? And would they appreciate that I email them every single time I find a typo? No, of course not. So that's why I don't do that. Would they appreciate if I email them every time I find a mistake? No, well, not if I find 5 mistakes in a day and I send them 5 emails per day. They wouldn't appreciate that. That's why I wait until the end of the day. If I'm pretty sure it's this way, then they would appreciate it that I just have a comment, hey, just in case. But I'm pretty sure, the way I translate it, it has this meaning, which I'm pretty sure is right, but blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I try to put myself in the client's shoes and see what would be best for them. Because at the end of the day, we're in the service industry. We're providing a service, so I try to serve the client. So that's my overreaching goal, overarching goal, I should say, that covers all of those. And so yeah, that's how I cover mistakes in the source text. Please let me know if you have other ways of doing it, or if you disagree, or if you agree and you have more to add to it. I'd love to hear about it, because these rules that I have are really just based on my experience and going through it and the different things that I've seen. That's kind of how I deal with it now. So yeah, hopefully you can find this useful as well when you are translating and you see mistakes in the source text. Also, yeah, I mentioned this because I was asked this, and also because I've seen it. I've seen translators who notice, like I remember working with a translator as well, who noticed a mistake in the source text and didn't do anything about it. Like we were working on this together, and I noticed I was going through her translation. I'm like, I noticed that there's this weird mistake. Anyway, whatever. And she's like, oh yeah, but they have it in the source text as well. So, it's not my fault. I'm like, yeah, but you got to put yourself in the shoes of the client. Like they need a document they can use. And if they made a mistake, yeah, it's not your job to find their mistakes, but might as well, right? And they'll always appreciate it to know that an extra set of eyes has looked over this document, because it shows that, I don't know, that you're a professional. You make their lives easier, which is kind of what you're trying to do. So anyway, hopefully you find this useful, and you can apply it when you find mistakes in the source text. And that's pretty much it. I will see you in the next video. I have other stuff to talk about, but I'll save it for another video because has nothing to do with this video. So I'll see you in the next video. Okay, thanks. Bye. Savidum.